Donttap podcast.
Donttap
podcast.
Follow me on Twitter.
Hey, I'm UFC President Dana White, and you're in the ring with Callum McGregor.
Okay, Donttap podcast. We are back after a week that was not so hot. The card pretty much, the betting card anyways, pretty much ate shit. The reality of the fact is, could have done better. Once again, it's been sort of hit or miss. We've been up and down, which is not really, I'd almost rather be a couple weeks in a row where we don't do well and then go on our long streaks that we've been doing where we're hitting dogs, hitting a couple money line spots. Prefer that over anything else. So let's get back to the winning ways. I know last week was our first week that we actually didn't have a podcast in a very long time. I apologize to the loyal listeners for that. As we're ironing out exactly what we're going to be doing moving forward, some things are going to be changing a little bit. I know that we don't really have an extra person here. So we will be going with an early takes podcast. So early in the week, I'm going to be dropping like 20 minutes of quick hits, my first takes, because what I've found is my best hits are the ones that I look at earlier on, a couple weeks ahead, or even a week ahead. If I hit those lines, put them out earlier in the week, you might miss a little bit of value in lines because you don't know, sometimes lines will fluctuate different ways that you didn't expect. But usually they hit as far as, that's the winning person, that's the winning side. I find no matter what I do, I'm a fan of the sport too. I listen to podcasts as well too. I'm listening to interviews, listening to, just different stuff, seeing stuff on Twitter, and it just muddies things up. And as much as you can say it doesn't, it does. Sometimes it gives you, it'll give you a play. It'll sort of sniff you onto a play that you maybe, you hit, which is great. But a lot of the time it sort of muddies up what your natural instinct is. So not saying that I'm a guru, I'm fucking not, but I definitely want to be able to sort of stick to my guns on my plays. And when I switch plays and sort of go with some things I, leaning towards from other people, it just doesn't make sense for me. Because what happens is when that one loses, I'm pissed off, right? If I hear something in an interview and it sort of sways me away because Anthony Smith gets interviewed and he says a couple of things, it's like, well, I already jumped off the Anthony Smith train. That was a bad play. I didn't need to make him the dog. I thought he could get it to the ground, didn't even try. I thought Khalil would, sort of gas out near the end of the fight and Anthony could get something in the third round. I was okay with the way it was going leading into the third round, but I did not see the uppercut coming. But anyways, yeah, just it doesn't make sense. You don't jump back on to bets because of, what you think may happen with this sort of whimsical fantasy idea when you haven't seen anything to back it up for a while. You haven't seen Anthony Smith take anybody down for a while. You haven't seen Anthony Smith really push towards that kind of scenario. He doesn't even really close the distance very well anymore. So just bad play all around. My bad on that one. Let's move forward, though. Let's look at UFC 296. I'm going to start right out of the gate. Normally, it's a main event play where I would just say, okay, that I just sort of have to pick a spot for the main event, but not the case this week. That's going to be one of my lead plays of the week. I'm going to come in with my first spot, and then we already dropped it now on the YouTube channel, Donttap YouTube channel. You will see any early spots and picks, and this was a pretty full card I put out pretty early, where you can get some early lines. And right now, Leon Edwards is now minus 150. That could be at most books. Then he was minus 130. So 20 points, not that big of a deal. But I just think that Colby Covington, although he's somebody that I've backed in the past quite avidly, to be honest, before he started to fight less frequent. But I backed him in all the Usman fights. I just like his pace. I like his pressure. He just sort of outworks guys to the point where they just don't know what to do anymore. And, well, that has served him very, very well in the past. He's been able to take guys down and land some big shots. Leon Edwards is I should say big shots. Colby sort of peppers you and lands. He doesn't have this big power, but he sort of volumes you. So he's landing some shots. Leon is no slouch to stand up. We know that. He's a high-level kickboxer. So he's going to go in there and be able to handle some shots from Colby, use his footwork to actually, circle off the cage and get away from him. On top of that, too, you saw what Leon did in his fight against Kamaru Usman. Look at those entries. The entries weren't that bad from Usman. So he's entering to go get that takedown, and Edwards gets to the hands. He's getting to the hands. He's stopping him. He's actually, bridging out. He's actually, I don't know, man. For me, I just think that he was able to make it work for himself. He was able to get away and use his footwork. Usman came in with some good shots, but Edwards just made them low quality by using his footwork, by using his, he was just getting to the hands right away. He wasn't letting Usman close those hands, wasn't letting him really get anything on the hips, anything on, the legs. He was able to get to those wrists and actually work him off easily off the cage and then get it back to the striking where he wants it. And I think that Leon is not the same Leon that, prior to that head kick, man. I think that changed things for him. You see him get broken, and sure, if someone breaks in a fight, you can see them get broken in a fight again. Whatever. We can go with that whole idea that he's a guy who's broken before and all the bullshit that goes with that. But I think that the belief is real after that head kick, man. He knows he can do it. He proved something to himself that night. And you saw, whatever it was in his training camp, whatever it was with that matchup in the second fight, he was able just to sort of work his game exactly the way he wanted. Higher volume striker, which is something that we normally see him sort of sit back and counterpunch. But he was able to just sort of implement a game plan offensively, which was great. Didn't really worry as much about the actual takedowns itself. I just think he wins this fight, man. I think championship camps, championship belief, championship growth, and all the things that go with that. Momentum's on his side. Leon Edwards, give me Leon Edwards. And Colby Covington, I don't know, man. I think it's time for him to make a decision as to what he wants to do. I don't know personally. There's a lot of personal stuff that's going on, but he has fought so infrequent. He needs to make a decision. He's been waiting around in this division to see if he can get back at the spot, and I just don't think it's his spot. So minus 130 initially earlier in the week, Leon Edwards, but give me minus 150 still. Anything over that, it's no longer a money line play for me. I just don't see as much value once we start creeping over those numbers. So for me, Leon Edwards, minus 130. Right now you can get him also at Betway at minus 150, but if you follow me early in the week, you get those points. So let's move on to the next fight. I'm definitely liking Casey O'Neill here. Casey O'Neill, pretty solid striker, man. As far as her volume and her accuracy as well too, I'm pretty happy with what she does on the feet. It's pretty solid. Now against Jennifer Maia, she did have an issue. Maia was getting to her first and sort of landing these shots, and I think caught her off guard a little bit. I think she thought maybe Maia would want to maybe run a little bit more grapple heavy situation and just mix it up a little bit more. But she was getting to her, and both ladies threw down high volumes, and it was just that she was just getting edged out in that fight. Now, was it the injury? Is the injury still an issue? Was it the injury really a big issue then? I imagine it was. Coming off a knee surgery, a rehab, and the way she came into that fight, I imagine it was hard to really get she looked a step behind, straight up. So let's give her that excuse. I think she comes into this fight, and I normally don't go on the flip side momentum, because if you see Ariane Lipski, she is on a little bit of a tear as of late. But for me, at the same time, I just still think that there's a little bit of a level thing here. I think that on the ground, if we get O'Neill on top, that's not a place that Lipski wants to be at all. I think she gets dominated, owned in the wrestling, and then elbows and hell comes down from O'Neill. On the feet, I think it goes back and forth, and I think O'Neill edges her in the volume. I don't think either lady is going to Lipski can land the big shot, but we've been talking about that for a while. It doesn't really quite happen all the time. She can land a big kick. She's a setup striker, but whatever. I think these two ladies go back and forth. I think a lot of it plays out on the feet. I think if O'Neill wants to actually take it to the ground, she can. But I just think that this is really, minus 160 at Betway. I think this is a Casey O'Neill spot. So I like Casey O'Neill. And then also that goes into one of my prop plays. I'm going to take Casey O'Neill by decision at plus 125. So a little bit of a double down on Casey O'Neill. I didn't initially want to play the money line, but I see I'm still okay with the minus 160. I will take that as a play, and give me Casey O'Neill decision at plus 125. Okay, next fight on the card, I'm going to break down my dog of the week. Dog of the week did not hit last week. Sort of stretched myself thin and switched up my picks as the line got shuffled and went with Anthony Smith. Plus 188, I think it was when I dropped it. This one a little bit lighter. We went with Cody Durden. I think that there's way too much value. I believe it was plus 142 when we got in on it. But right now, Cody Durden can be had for... Okay, for our dog of the week, we're going to come in with a guy we backed his dog multiple times, or at least I have, Cody Durden, with the right mix of wrestling, relentless takedowns, as well as landing strikes. He's very consistent with landing points and whether it's on the feet, landing big power shots, getting moments. I appreciate it. He is the guy that will run relentless pressure and break guys, and then that dog money looks real fucking good when that happens. Obviously, the line's a little bit tighter than a really nice dog. I mean, over plus 150 is where you start saying, oh, that's a really big dog of the week. We got him at plus 140. That dropped. I put that on the YouTube channel. But right now you can get him actually still around plus 140, plus 138 at Pinnacle is where we initially had the line on. But Tagir Ulanbekov, while he is a very well-rounded fighter, good on the feet, pretty clean on the feet, able to win some good decisions. He's going to end up getting broken and put on his back foot. I think that once he realizes that Cody's not going to really stay on his back, if Tagir tries to get him on the fence, he's going to get taken down himself potentially. If Tagir wants to keep it on the feet, I think Cody will just keep pressing forward and maybe even take one or two shots, but still land some big shots. So as I fumble through that a little bit, I just think that matchup-wise, it's going to be that pace and pressure and the relentless approach of Cody, which gives him his value. And although Tagir, I've faded him in the past and he's proven me wrong because he is, we talk some shit sometimes as cappers who we don't fight, but we talk about other fighters and say that they're lower level or whatever else. He is a pretty high level guy. It's just Tagir's not what needs to, like he sort of stalled out at times in fights. And while he's had some sort of wins on his record more late, that leads to him being more of a finisher or more of a guy that wants to go for the finish. He's stalled out many times on top and really even potentially could be swept as well too. So regardless, Cody is not even going to be in those positions. Cody's going to land big shots on the feet. I think Cody at plus 140 or plus 142, whatever the fuck you can get it at, is great value. Cody Durden, as I fumble through that, but I'm not re-recording this for the third time. Next, we have the Donttap parlay. We have Rude Boy Randy Brown and Cody Garbrandt. I'm going to be very quick because this is now being re-recorded again, as the last recording did not work properly. It timed out at the end. So I'm going to go over this really quickly. Rude Boy Randy Brown, very tricky with his striking. So is Muslim Salikov. Salikov more of really a setup kickboxer in the situation where it's more traditional. Rude Boy Randy Brown, sneaky with his strikes, setting up his boxing, closing distance as well too, but using kicks at range to be very tricky with as well too. So he sort of lulls you in and tries to pull you into him, and then he lands with multiple counters and or even has submissions in his back pocket with those long, rangy arms. He can snatch up necks as well too. That being said, I think he's going to be able to lean on Salikov on the cage using his size and using that leverage of those arms. 8-inch reach for a guy like him, I think it's just going to be a big difference in the fight and why the line is so wide. Rude Boy Randy Brown, give me him as a side. Plus, I just love the dude. I think he's awesome. So, high-level fighter, Rude Boy Randy Brown wins this one. Cody Garbrandt, a guy who people are sort of fading in the situation because he's been knocked out in the past. I've gone over this already, but I think a guy who's talked about, at least on socials, about sobriety. You see him now. He's found faith. I'm not suggesting that faith is a difference because I'm not a man who's found faith. I don't believe in religion. That being said, anybody who finds religion in fighting seems to find focus in fighting. And they find this path that leads them to clean fighting and consistent fighting. And it all aligns. It really, really does. So you see this. You see the fact that if it's drinking that was potentially the issue, and I think that might have been. A lot of fighters drink a lot. There's partying, there's Vegas, there's all this shit that goes with it. When you're partying and drinking a lot, and you're also cutting weight a lot, and you're training a lot, and you're always dehydrated, your brain is not functioning properly. I was an alcoholic for many years and drank at a level that would scare most people. The reality of the fact is the doctor told me and talked to me about my brain, talked to me how I'm susceptible to be knocked out, talked to me about all these different things to do with my brain and what that would do to my brain, even potentially long-term, if I kept dehydrating it at that level. Well, enter fighters with substance abuse issues, right? And or more talking about the alcoholism or drinking side of things. Now, I'm not going to delve down that rabbit hole again, but the idea is, even if that's not the case in his sobriety, he's found this focus, he's found this drive, he's changed his approach, he's with Extreme Couture, he's down there with Eric Nixick. I'm not suggesting Team Alpha Male was a negative, I'm just saying change sometimes is what you need when you're trying to refocus your life. Although he bounced around a little bit, that seems to be where his focus is now. I think Cody Garbrandt's aside, he showed that he wanted to wrestle in the last fight. I think he does it here as well too. Brian Kelleher has been swimming in the LA fitness pool And rapping on his social medias, I fucking love the dude. I love his style as well too. He goes for the takedowns as well too. I don't see him taking down Cody with his footwork, not getting clean entries on Cody. On the feet, Cody's going to style on him. I don't see him landing a big shot. They're more looping. Cody's going to be smart with that. I don't see him getting into that war again. If it happens, it happens, but I just don't see it. I'm going to go with momentum and a lot of positive shift. And I mean, like I said, Kelleher was in a neck brace not too long ago. Neck surgery. I can't go with that side no matter what I would do. So I'm definitely going to go with the momentum swing of Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt and Rude Boy Randy Brown. I believe it's around plus 103. I have to double check in my cards, but that's what we're looking at. The KO prop, I'm going to come in with Justin Jacoby. He does get a knockout in his last fight. Before that, we were sort of worried about conditioning and everything else and how he lost in the fight prior. That fight before that, he beats Khalil Roundtree in that fight, but Khalil wins the decision that was possibly one of the worst decisions of the year. And if we're looking at it, we were unsure how he would sort of stretch out over time in a fight. Now, Dustin Jacoby's level on the feet against Menafield has a nice jab, traditionally more of a wrestler, but nice jab. Use that well to sort of disguise his big overhand right. That being said, his style of striking is not going to work against Jacoby. He's not going to let him establish a jab. He's going to land and land pretty frequent on him. He's going to put teeps to the belly. He's not going to be worried as much about the takedowns. I don't see Menafield being able to hold him down or take him down. Maybe on the cage a little bit. You see a little bit of stuff off the cage, but I see Jacoby circling off and landing some big strikes. I think that the one thing about Menafield, we're going to see a similar situation that we saw with Hackbrass and Malarkey. Menafield, when he closes distance and switches between striking and his grappling and wrestling, you see his chin open. You see his body open to be hit. That could happen again here with a more precise striker. Hackbrass pretty precise. Hackbrass, Jacoby. I'm not suggesting Hackbrass is this high-level kickboxer. Fuck, maybe he is. But Jacoby, I think, just is going to land more shots and eventually get Menafield out of there. Maybe early, but potentially late. So give me Dustin Jacoby plus 185 for the KO. Okay, that is the Donttap podcast. That is my picks and plays going into the new year. I will be doing my early picks and plays for about 20 minutes a week. That'll come out Monday or Tuesday mornings. Late in the week, we will have, and I may do this for pay-per-views. I may do this for every week. We will see exactly how frequent I can get this rolling, and I really want to do it. It's going to be Couch versus the Coach. And we could potentially go with Capper versus the Coach, but I want to call it Couch versus the Coach because it's sort of, there's a line there between, looking at cappers, people on YouTube, the professional cappers in Vegas, whatever it is, that maybe don't always do the athletic side of things and understand the full in the cage aspect of actually hand-to-hand combat from an actual standpoint of training. Some guys do, most guys don't. Then if you look at the fighter's standpoint or the coach's standpoint, they don't look over tape meticulously the same way. I mean, some coaches do. But the same way cappers do. Every week you guys are digging through tape. Every week gamblers are digging through tape and matching up fighters and writing down notes on fighters and doing all these things that you don't, not because other fighters are focused on themselves. They're focused on their own fights. Coaches are focused on their fighters. They're not focused on all of these fighters. And you have this encyclopedia of fighters in your brain that you bring a sort of an edge to it. So I think it's a good dynamic. You have both pluses to both sides. Maybe show both sides to each other that there's value in what the fighters are saying and coaches are saying. There's value in what the capper is saying and the gambler and the bettor is saying. But ultimately, I think it's a cool idea. Definitely want to get that rolling. Couch versus the capper or Couch versus the Coach. We'll have Donttap early picks and plays with Cal. And then on top of that, MMA Minefield, we have Cody Javanchek fighting this weekend at Unified MMA. Just recorded that one with him. That'll be going up this week. On top of that, there's multiple other opportunities. We have Slava finally coming on with Alex Munoz. I'm looking forward to that one and other fighters as well, too. I'm Callum McGregor. Tune into the Donttap podcast.